first of all, I want to give a shout out to all of our listeners. Right, we got a very diverse group of listeners from like every walk of life. I feel like I've seen a comment from somebody everywhere. So, and we've also had a very diverse group of guests, right? But we said we were going to get on here and actually have a conversation about diversity. One of the things that we don't really talk about that much is diversity and stuff like that. The reason why I don't think I've ever really leaned over to talking about it because I feel like it's self-explanatory. I feel like it's in our conversation. It's in our vernacular. It's in when we go through our experiences. It's in some of that stuff. So I never really create the conversation about diversity on this podcast because I feel like we live, breathe, shit diversity all the time or whatever, right? So I never thought we needed to have the dialogue until recently we did have an episode and diversity did come up in that episode. And, you know, we got some responses from some listeners. People were just confused. They didn't really know or understand some of the stuff that came out of that episode. So I wanted to make sure that we got on here and we talked about how we feel about diversity. Now, before we go that far, Damon, I do want to say that we didn't intend to talk about diversity on that episode. It wasn't in our thought of question based, right? We never was driving toward diversity, and so it wasn't something that we were prepared to speak about. And that's not me saying that we wasn't prepared to speak about it in a sense of I'm saying that I wasn't ready for the conversation. But when diversity came up, what I was trying to do was get away from it as fast as possible. So I was trying to talk about it through it to clarify some stuff. But if it seems like it wasn't clear, because it was more me trying to get away from it. That's why last week when I came on and I said it wasn't really a conversation, is because it wasn't. Like that would have been 2 to 3 hour long back and forth dialogue, like kind of conversation about diversity if we took it to where it probably needed to go. So for a listener that felt like they were cut short on that experience, I do apologize for cutting that conversation short because I didn't want to have it. I wasn't ready to have it. We didn't prepare to have it. We didn't know how to have it. And that wasn't what I wanted a listener to take away from that episode. It wasn't about diversity.
Yeah.
Now, before Damon go, the last thing I want to say just in preparation is, well, if you didn't want to talk about diversity, if you wasn't prepared to talk about diversity, then why didn't you take that part of the episode out? If we would have, I felt like it was a lot of good stuff in the episode. Like most of the episode was good. However, a lot of it referred back to that conversation. So I feel like if that part came out, you probably wouldn't understand the whole episode. And then the second part of that is I feel like this. It's permission to speak freely. And that's with us and our guest. So I have some lessons learned, you know, as far as things that I could do in the future if something like diversity or something comes up that we didn't intend to talk about or something like that. We could easily pause and kind of redirect fire and stuff like that. Or we could go through it, you know, so it's lessons learned. But just with this being permission to speak freely, I do want to make sure that our guests always have the space to like share their thoughts, even if we don't agree with it, but we don't put them into this like defensive mode where now they're not comfortable letting loose and like talking about things with us. So that's my thoughts on that. Not Damon's. I don't know what Damon's thoughts on that are, but I'm interested in.
Yeah. Hey, I'm with you, man. You said a whole lot of things that I was thinking about or saying the whole time anyway. This is permission to speak freely, man. We're not cutting anything. We're not putting it out. Nothing. I mean, and like you said, it came back to that a lot of times. A lot of times what was said in that episode was being cleared up the whole episode. You know what I mean? It was more of a giving us more clear on what was either trying to be said or whatever. It was a whole lot of clearing it up. So if you would have took it out, it'd have been like, what the hell going on type shit. You would have lost some people. But with that being said, for me also, man, I just want everybody to know, man, diversity, been in the Navy since I've been in the Navy. And everywhere I've been, diversity has been a strength,
Mhm.
a strength in the command. Period. Right. When you had some identities coming in with experience, right? With all different types of background coming together in a group, right? To come up with a wide range of perspectives, right? On things, a wide range of things, right? But you got people from different backgrounds, people from different races, people from different I can keep going on and on and on things we already know, right? But my whole situation, what I want to say, man, it is a strength. You can never have a negative feedback from somebody coming from different backgrounds coming together, because guess what? Those ideas that one person came up with can be good, right? But when you leave that room, that good idea have now became great because we may have added something that one person probably wasn't thinking about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He or she wasn't thinking about that because they didn't come from the same background that this person could have been coming from,
Mhm.
right? So now they thinking about it in a different perspective, and you might be like, wow, shit, I didn't think about that. Guess what? That's why we doing this.
Yeah.
That's why we have diversity. That's it. All the rest of that shit, this is not even about race. Races. None of that stuff. This is somebody coming together to talk about something. Now, we got me and Damo always talk about like focus groups and all this type of stuff all the time because we like, man, why we ain't part of that? You know what I mean? Why we got this group making decisions and they all this race or all that? Why are they making decisions on this particular group or whatever, right? That goes all back to having a diverse group.
Yeah.
Right? So we can get to the bottom of things and we can have different perspective. You guys don't understand how big that is. That's why I'm so saying strength so many times, man, because we have to get to the bottom of some of this stuff. And we can't get to the bottom of it if we don't have a diverse group.
Yeah.
Right? If we don't have a diverse group, we're not making it a strength. Period. Right? And that's my whole perspective on it, man. And I know everybody understand what diversity is and all that stuff, but it's the way it's being used. And Damo, you brought up that point earlier. Well, not earlier. You brought up a point on an episode that you said that if you had an issue with anything in a diversity group, you know, all the monthly things come out or whatever, you had an issue with that, be part of it.
Yeah.
And you have the ability to be part of it. You had an opportunity to be part. They always looking for people to help. You know what I mean? In these groups. So you have that opportunity. And how many things out there in the world, not even talking about the Navy, in the world, that you can make an impact on something that you don't like.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, you can join it and have an impact damn near immediately if that impact is worth having. You know what I mean? You can have it immediately. You know what I'm saying? Because that's why we have diversity. That's why we have these groups, because you're looking at it from a different perspective, and now you can join it and give that perspective and probably make an impact. Wow. That's big. That's huge.
Yeah. And my double down there is diversity to me is the most beautiful part of being American, right? It's also the most beautiful part of being in the military. Like just going to like when I grew up in Philly, just going to 9th Street, the Italian market, right? And just seeing different people from different cultures with different foods and that whole kind of melting pot that was, that's America to me. Like I don't go to too many other countries. I haven't been to too many other countries and saw that, like that type of a mixture of people like all together. Same as the Navy. Like we go to the military and we meet people from all over the world and we become great friends with them. And we get that perspective, and that makes like diversity made me a better person from being able to get like all of these perspectives. I do want to say this. I don't want to talk about diversity if I'm not in a group that's diverse. So if there's no women in the group, right, I can't talk about it. And that's to say the least, right? If there's no women in the group, I can't talk about it to say the least, you know? And then I ain't gonna go there. But if there's no women in the group, I can't talk about it, say the least. And sometimes when I'm giving out an example of something, it's just an example. So for instance, when we talk, I will say it. When we talked, I asked the question was like, do you think a group of white men can make a decision for a group of women? I wasn't saying that it could have been a group of any men of any color. I just was in that conversation, in that moment, I was using that as an example because I was going with two completely different groups of people or whatever like that. But I need a diverse group of people to talk about diversity. But then it's also times that I don't want to talk about diversity. You know what I'm saying? It's times in situations that I don't want to talk about. Like, for instance, I go on the internet, right? And the brown Band-Aids came about, right? So the brown Band-Aids came about, the Band-Aids that's our skin tone, right? So somebody on the internet, like, well, why do they need Band-Aids? Why do you need Band-Aids that's your skin tone? You know, I don't want to explain to you why I need Band-Aids that's my skin tone because you're never going to understand because you always had Band-Aids that was your skin tone forever. Like, so you'll never understand why it's important that these Band-Aids are now my skin tone. You won't ever get it. It's just not somewhere that your mind will ever go, right? And that's how I look at when I think about, like, I bust it all the way down to something as small as the brown Band-Aids. And we talked about it on an episode when I was talking about the doctors, when I was talking about the black doctors. I understand those circumstances as well. When I know somebody's mind is not going to go to those brown Band-Aids or whatever like that. Because another thing that I think about is about fairness, right? Because a lot of the times people default to like fairness. And me personally, I used to have arguments with one of my friends, right? We never agreed about it, and people don't got to agree about this. But I think fairness is relative. A lot of people looking at fairness like it starts at the whistle blow or it starts at the gunshot or whatever, right? In the race, right? Like fairness starts at the start line. But it's a lot of shit that happens before you hit that start line. A whole lot of preparation, trainers, people got better resources, people got better things that's going to put somebody at an advantage at the start line, right? Now, is it a chance that the person that didn't have all of these things could win? Yeah, that's called an underdog. That's called an underdog story. That's what that is, an underdog story. But if you prepped up, if you got the best trainers, boom, 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 you have an advantage at the start line. So the start line, for me, in my opinion, the start line does not signify fairness. So where does fairness really begin when we start talking about fairness in the grand scheme of things? And that's the reason why I don't get into none of that. You know what I'm saying? I try my best not to have those conversations because that's the way my mind start to process stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. I agree 100%, man. Like people can say, like, why do we, every time something happen for the first time for a minority and we bring it up, like, man, why they bringing that shit up? Right?
Yeah.
Because it's the first motherfucking time that it didn't happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In this world, right? So that's why we bring some of that stuff up, man. Not to point fingers, not to do this. I want to bring up another point you made, man, about when you brought up the point about white men talking about, women, right? I'm not qualified.
Right.
You know what I mean? The fact that I did not say not one time I didn't have an opinion. I got an opinion about a whole lot of shit, but I'm not qualified to talk about certain things.
Yeah.
Right? So if you want my opinion, that could be a little different story, but that goes back to why we have a diverse group. So when my dumbass opinion come into play, somebody can say, nah, this is what we should be doing because of this, right? That's why we put this. That's why we talk about diverse and we talk about how it's a strength and all that type of stuff, man. But I'm quick to say it, and I know you are too. Because I have heard you saying, like, we could bring up a conversation about anything, and you will say in a heartbeat, hey, I'm going to say this, but I'm not qualified. You know what I mean? Or you'll say, we need a lady on the panel to talk about this or
like,
whatever the case may be.
You can't
always
say this. We can't say how the lady feel because we're not women, you know? And I try my best to stray away from those kind of conversations because they just, to me, they ain't even cool, you know, to have in that context, you know? Another thing I do want to talk about is like the flag. You know, I want to talk about the flag real quick. Because I'm not sure that that the flag holds weight to everybody the same way. The flag should symbolize something, right? It should symbolize whatever it is that, and it's going to symbolize America, however it is that you look at America, right? It's going to symbolize whatever you look at America as, and that's based off of history and what you know about America to be today, right? America could have a different history than somebody else's America. I was just listening to Tom Hanks talk about being 66 and finally hearing about the Tulsa massacre at 66 years old. I mean, he didn't understand or know about Tulsa before 66. So America, and he was saying that was unfair to him as an American. You know, it didn't matter what race he was. He was saying that was unfair to him as an American to not know about something in history as important as Tulsa was, especially when we've heard about other massacres or whatever. So I don't think every American centralizes at the symbol. I don't think every American centralizes at the same sentiment of the symbol that the flag holds. I don't believe that. You know what I'm saying? And the flag to me is a symbol, is a symbol of something. Like, so let me say this. The N-word, right? And I'm going to talk about some heavy topics a little bit, but the N-word, that don't hurt me, right? As a black man in America, I was talking to my wife about this. The N-word don't hurt me. I'm not going to commit a crime because somebody called me that. I'm not going to kill somebody because somebody called me that. I'm not going to whoop somebody's ass because somebody called me that. You could call me what you want, but I'm not about to come out of my body because somebody called me a word.
Yeah.
Right? To me, the flag is a symbol. Like, I'm not holding dear to somebody doing something stupid with the flag as a symbol. That flag, now the things that it symbolizes are the things that I fight to protect. That's my opinion. That's my opinion. And but I look at it the same way I look at when I hear that. And man, you could say that a million times. I'm not fazed by that.
Yeah, and you make some points, man. Like for me, from someone, you have your opinion. Why am I going out my body on your opinion? You know what I mean? Because that's exactly what it is, man. Like for the flag and things like that. You're right, man. It means different for different people. For what that flag means, it's a little bit different, right? So, and where we at right now, man, we're in a free country, right? So you can think, do a whole lot of whatever the F you want to do in America, man. So, but when we talking about putting hands on people, when we talking about hurting people for things like from their own opinion, man, that would get crazy for me. Right? You're right. I'm the same way with you, man. The N-word don't hurt me either.
Yeah,
we might have a conversation about it, but I'm not finna get out my body about it. You know what I mean? Same thing. You're right with the flag. The same thing. I'm not getting out my body for anything. But I like talking about things like that, though. I like to see your perspective of it. You know what I mean? Why you think like that? Even with the thing with the kneeling and all that stuff that was real hot topic at one point. That's how someone feels about it, though. You know what I mean? And it wasn't only just, if you seen, though, I mean, it was mostly like, I guess most of them might have been seen African Americans, but people was coming to join them. It wasn't just the African Americans that was doing the kneeling. You know what I mean? It was people, it was their perspective on what they think, you know what I mean, that was going on in the country at the time. So I don't want to get too deep into that stuff, but you're right, man. At the end of the day, man, people have their opinions on what they think. And on top of that, I like the fact that we can come together and talk about things. I was having this conversation, man, in the office. I think it was in the office, and we was talking about slavery and someone telling one of these guys that, man, you didn't have to go through none of that stuff, right? And things like that. Why are you like angry about it? And I was like, I'm not necessarily angry. I'm not angry about anything, right? Yeah. But what I am though, like the tell me that a person that raised me, which is my grandma, was born in 1923. She raised me. You don't think how you think those conversations went when we sit in the house by ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? What you think we are talking about? If she was born in 1923, my mom was born in 1951 in the state of Mississippi. So how do you think those conversations was had, and how it translates to me growing up in America?
Yeah, it affects
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you cannot be like, oh, it didn't happen to you. You might be right. It didn't. But it happens to somebody I loved.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Somebody that taught me a whole lot. Right? So I just think that's the wrong way to think about it, though. That's all I'm getting at. I think when people say things like that, you're not educated on even talk about it.
Yeah.
When you talk like that. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's just another little point I wanted to make on that, man.
Yeah, people do that. Like, yeah, why are you worrying about it? It wasn't during your time and all that. Like, it's crazy. Like, it's a thing called foundation. It's how things were built, made, and everything is kind of comes from that. And that's where I was talking about the start line and fairness being relative, and all of that stuff is all connected, in some place. It is a couple more things I do want to say. The first thing is this: we don't like specifically talk about like diversity and like us being black that much or whatever. And I don't want to start that. Like, I like for me and my lifestyle and my culture to be kind of ingrained and known and understood just throughout the conversations that I have, like it or not. The only reason why we wanted to talk about this was because of feedback saying that we might not have fully elaborated on what we wanted. And then it had nothing to do with our guest. We might not have fully elaborated on our stance toward those things, right? So I wanted to make sure we got on here and had this conversation. Another thing about that is this: it's only happening because it's about diversity. We ain't ever coming up here and going, come back and talk about something we talked about on the last episode again, period. But this one, unless it's like a part of you gonna stand on that segment or something like that. But this one, it happened to be about diversity, and we have a very diverse audience, and we really love and respect all of you. So we wanted to get on and make sure like that our stance on diversity was clear. But we ain't about to do this. Like, this ain't McDonald's, you know what I mean? Where it's like, oh yeah, y'all said this on that episode, so
we about to come back.
Yeah, we not doing all that. That's because this was about diversity, and we really, respect and we love you all. And we hope that this was a way to give some clarity on what we were thinking about. Again, it's about us. Because like I said, if I want to talk about diversity and scale, I need some young sellers. I need women, men, older, younger. We need a diverse group of people to talk about something that's as big a deal as diversity or whatever like that. So
most definitely.
Right? Is there anything else? You had any other thoughts on that? Did we cover everything?
Nah, I think we covered what we wanted to cover anyway, man. And just remember, like Damo said, man, this is a special, man. This is a bonus. This is nothing that's gonna fucking happen too often. So keep that shit in mind too. But yeah, man, I like it. Mississippi, what's up? I'll let your boy, man.
You can't Mississippi. What's up on the bonus joint?
You gonna take that out, Damo?
That's coming out, man.